but it did go a little way toward explaining why this particular councilman ranked among his least favorite.
I report when I have information worth reporting. 3 days? And you've learned nothing?
Grimly, Dima pushed aside the impulse to take his impatience out on the Frenchman and focused on the task at hand. A successful mission provided the only way Dima could honorably return to Russia and his estate near the banks of the Shalon. Even if his employers could be satisfied with anything less, he could not.
I have eliminated several possibilities, he said grudgingly. That is progress of the sort we would wish to hear reported. That is not how I work.
For more than 300 years, Vladimir of Novgorod had stood as the finest and most feared member of the European Council of Vampires' elite army of enforcers of the laws. His skill, relentless determination, and brute strength had brought to justice many of Europe's most notorious vampire offenders, those beings who disregarded the customs and boundaries that had kept the secret of their kind from humanity since the dawn of time.
Perhaps you will need to make a concession or two.
Before Dima could express his disdain of that idea, the Frenchman continued.
The Council would also like to hear your impressions of the relations between us and the humans. Of course, we possess much curiosity of the results of the American experiment.
Several years ago, the American others had managed to force the issue of unveiling their existence to humans. Reactions had been predictably mixed, but perhaps unpredictably, in the eyes of the ECV at least, peaceable. Still, the ECV and other groups like it maintained a tight rein on the vampire population under its purview in order to bolster the uneasy truce with humankind. Dima grunted.
The situation appears stable for the most part. Law and order prevails. However, the mortals remain wary of us, especially of vampires. We have always focused much of their fear.
The Frenchman's philosophical shrug sounded clear in his tone. To Dima, this made no sense. Were he still a mortal man, he would have more fear of the shape-shifting predators like the lupines and the feline races than of vampires. After all, a vampire might feed on human blood, but a werewolf could feed on human flesh. The mortals, though, didn't seem to feel the same way. Something about the shifters fascinated them, curbing their fear with a sort of grudging affection. The way Dima figured it, it had to be the fur. Cover a beast in a soft, shiny pelt, and humans just couldn't resist petting it, no matter what the risk to their outstretched limbs. But make a beast an enemy of the sun, and the humans shivered at the mere mention of its name.
Fools. Not so foolish,
the Frenchman corrected.
After all, who better than you understands how some vampires can prove very dangerous to humans indeed, if they choose to disregard the laws?
Dima grunted, shifting his weight while maintaining his clear view of the empty street below him. He couldn't argue with the Frenchman's contention. The truth of it was, after all, the reason Dima was here. The first of the laws of the vampire race stated that humans must not be drained to the point of death, because only a stupid predator killed off its food source. Dead, humans became useless, but alive they could continue to provide nourishment for vampires for years or decades to come. The second law decreed with equal adamance that humans should be turned only under the most extreme circumstances or after permission had been granted by the prince of a territory or by the ECV itself.
I hardly need to remind you of the laws Yelizaveta has broken,
the Frenchman said. He didn't. The vampire Dima currently hunted had broken both the primary laws many times, for which she'd been sentenced to spend the remainder of her existence in a palatial but well-guarded prison outside of Moscow. It hadn't helped her cause that